What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got another Bob Seger reaction. This time, the album Stranger in Town, credited to Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, brought to us by our friend, longtime supporter and patron of the channel, Trucker Kev. Thank you, Trucker Kev. Really appreciate you and all the patrons that make this channel go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out the Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen, where I'll also put a link to the live Bullet reaction that I did for Kev several months back that I super enjoyed. So before we get started, let's see what Trucker Kev has to say about this album. He says, it's my favorite Seger studio album. It's an album that found him rolling right along in the 70s with lots of radio-friendly hits, such as the classic Still the Same. And this is where Tom Cruise and his skivvy dance would become notorious some 5 years later in the classy, risky business, dancing to old-time rock and roll. This album is one of those classic Bob Seger albums where there is more than filler, there's lots of killer. From the thundering beginning of the now classic Hollywood Nights, one of the Story of My Life songs, Feel Like a Number, the album actually had a few big chart hits on regular AM and FM play. Still the Same, of course, in the beautiful ballad We've Got Tonight. But like the Doobie Brothers to me and Bob Seger and Steely Dan, this is where the amazement shines. The not-so-hits are just as solid as the regular big ones. Till It Shines is another huge favorite up there, featuring some great lead guitar from Bob's old buddy, the late Glenn Frey. Most people know how tight Bob and Glenn were all through the years. And the two closers, the amazing Brave Strangers, just a rollicking fun time, and the absolutely beautiful, famous Final Scene. Kev says his favorites out here are so many to mention because it's an album that I still listen to all the time for almost over 40 years. He got this in 1978 when he was 8 years old, so it's been a companion all those years in different forms of media. So I don't have much on the quick facts. I found it's the 10th studio album by Bob Seger and his second with the Silver Bullet Band, released by Capitol Records in May of 1978. Like its predecessor, the Silver Bullet Band backed Seger on about half of the songs, and the Muscle Shoals rhythm section backed Seger on the other half. Became an instant success, went to 4 in the US, sold over 6 million copies, and his first album to chart in the UK at number 31. All tracks are written by Bob, except for Where I Note. On that, there will be no music in the video, but it'll be at the Vimeo link below, so check it out. Listen along with me. Let's get to the first track. And you see it below, Hollywood Nights. Second single went to 12 in the US, 42 in the UK. Went gold, so it sold over 500,000 copies. Seger said, the chorus just came into my head. I was driving around the Hollywood Hills and I started singing Hollywood Nights, Hollywood Hills, above all the lights, Hollywood Nights. I went back to my rented house and there was a Time magazine with Cheryl Tiegs on the cover. I said, let's write a song about a guy from the Midwest who runs into someone like this and gets caught up in this whole bizarro thing. So we've got the Silver Bullet Band in here. We got Julia Waters, Luther Waters, Maxine Waters, and Orrin Waters on background vocals, along with Bill Payne adding piano and organ in addition to the Silver Bullet Band. All of the lyrics up, as always. Thanks again, Kev. Hollywood Nights, a song I've actually never heard. I thought David Teagarden's drums on there were really a standout. And then, you know, the second you hear Seger's voice, man, it's just like an old friend, right? I just love his voice, man. Just has that familiarity. The backing vocals also added something to it. I mean, the song itself, it's 5 minutes long. It doesn't seem like it at all. The story basically is, yeah, this Midwest guy goes to Hollywood. He meets this girl that is, you know, he mentions her face. She just takes him in, man. And they do all this stuff. They're out on the beach. They drive up the coast. They do all these things. And one night he wakes up and she's gone, right? So he's looking out over the Hollywood Hills, wondering if he's ever going to get out of there, and just kind of reminiscing. And he's heartbroken, like it's a story as old as time, right? His is just framed up in the Hollywood area he was in over his head. But just an anthemic song to start this out with. And like I said, I never heard this song. Well, let's go to the second song, which I do know. You see it below, we have Still the Same. Single went to 4 in the US, went gold as well, sold 500,000 copies. The lyrics describe a gambler who the singer has admired, but in the end walks away from it because he will not change. Seger has said that he has been asked for years who the song is about, and it's actually an amalgamation of characters he met when he first went to Hollywood. So just like Hollywood Hills, we got the Silver Bullet Band in on this one too. We also got Bonita Fields, Clyde King, and Shirley Matthews on background vocals. So I'm 1 year younger than Kev, so I was 7 when this album came out. So I've never heard this album, but there's certain songs, you know, that you just know because you've heard them from time to time. So I don't know this song like in any sort of depth, but I have heard it a few times. Still the same, even though it's a slower paced song, the instrumentation is still tight, man. The arrangement is great. I mean, I heard this song a few times. I didn't know it was about a gambler. I talked about in the beginning where, there's a summary that it's about a gambler. But when you read it, I think it's about a gambler. But he said it's a combination of a lot of people. So it's about a gambler, but it also could be about a woman who's moving from relationship to relationship and knows when to get out before she gets hurt. And there's a little bit of that in there too. But, I'm not going to break down the lyrics because it really does come around gambling and walking away from the game and, still the same. Because you're still the same, baby. You're still the same, moving game to game. Some things never change, and that those backing vocals, give a little bit of call and response in there. So yeah, man, that's a tight one. That's a good one. Now we got the song that everybody knows on here, "Old Time Rock and Roll." Story behind this one, written by George Jackson and Thomas Earl Jones III, with uncredited lyrics to Bob. I'll get to that in a minute. So it's been often referenced as Seger's favorite song. 28 in the U.S. is all it went to. 31 in Canada, but 2 million copies sold. The song gained renewed popularity after being featured, as Kev mentioned, in the beginning of the 1983 film Risky Business. It has since become a standard in popular music and was ranked number 2 on the Amusement and Music Operators Association survey of the top 40 jukebox singles of all time back in 1996. It's also listed as one of the songs of the century in 2001 and ranked number 100 in the American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Song poll in 2004, the top songs in American cinema. The Muscle Shoals rhythm section, who often backs Seger in his studio recordings, as I mentioned, they're on half these tracks, sent Seger a demo of the song during the recording of Stranger in Town. He said in 2006, quote, "All I kept from the original was old-time rock and roll. That kind of music just soothes the soul. I reminisce about the days of old with that old-time rock and roll. I rewrote the verses, and I never took credit. It's the dumbest thing I ever did. And Tom Jones, Thomas E. Jones, and George Jackson know it too. But I just wanted to finish the record. I rewrote every verse you hear except for the choruses. I didn't ask for credit. My manager said you should ask for a third of the credit. And I said, nah, nobody's going to like it. I'm not credited on it, so I couldn't control the copyright either." However, George Stevenson of Malaco Records claimed, quote, "Old Time Rock and Roll is truly George Jackson's song, and he has the tapes to prove it. Despite Seger's claim that he altered it, Bob had pretty much finished his recording at Muscle Shoals, and he asked them if they had any other songs he could listen to for the future." So I don't know, man. Who knows? But all I know is it's definitely an iconic song. Old Time Rock and Roll. Interesting enough, George Jackson, the guy who claims that he wrote it all, is on background vocals on this. This one does have the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. It has Alto Reed, though, on that great sax solo on there. Just great arrangement, great guitar work. Just a great song. I've heard it a lot, and I'm like, I don't know, man, when I listen to it in the context of the album. But it really is great, man, when you just listen to it here through the headphones, reading the lyrics. And, the great, the basic thing, this is 1978, so he's won that old-time rock and roll. Imagine what Bob's thinking now, right, compared to what we're dealing with in rock music this century, really, for the most part. It's kind of time sensitive in way. Verse 2, "Don't try to take me to a disco. You never even see me out on the floor. In 10 minutes, I'll be late for the door." I like that old time rock and roll. So the lyricism really is good in here, whoever wrote it. I want to side with Bob a little bit here, but I don't know the story. I just know what I told you. So we'll leave it for somebody else to figure out. All I do know is this is a fantastic song. Now we go to "Till It Shines." The only thing I know about that is what Kev said. You got Glenn Frey with the guitar solo on this one. "Till It Shines." The instrumentation on here was great. I mean, Frey's guitar was obviously good, but everything else was just tight. And while it's a slower song, it still has the rock elements to it. But, one thing I like on these slower songs is when you feel that emotion, like Bob's putting a little extra into it, right? Holding it a little bit. And man, his voice is so freaking good. It's just so good. So I really enjoyed this one. Kind of talking about being alone. He had a chip on his shoulder. He's talking to a girl. She can kind of help him out. Kind of take that chip off his shoulder until it shines. Maybe a diamond till it shines. Just a really good song. Like I said, during the reaction, that Frey guitar solo was fantastic and cool to know that he is on there. Now we're going to end out side 1 with "Feel Like a Number." It would end up being the B-side is still the same, so a lot of people knew it who didn't even have the album. It was featured in the 1981 movie Body Heat. According to Bob, he said this in 1978 when the album came out, "I got the idea for the song after watching a show about computer banks and how many names were in them. We're all in computer banks. Lord knows how many data collections there are. Everybody is a number, and in the record industry, you're also thought of a lot of times as a number, the amount you sell or whatever. Some of the humanity gets lost and the hype takes over. You have to watch out. That's the whole idea of Stranger in Town as an album, actually. It's about identifying and trying to survive and keep your identity. Man alive, Mr. Seger was way ahead of his time on this kind of stuff. Feel Like a Number, man, that song was fantastic. The restraint of the last song, Till It Shines, is polar opposite on here, Feel Like a Number. I always start with the instrumentation, just the arrangement on Bob's stuff. So good. The piano playing by, I'm sure it's Robin Robbins, because the Silver Bowl Band is on this one. Alto on the brass, the drumming of Teagarden, the guitar work. I mean, whether it's Drew Abbott, whether it's Seger on there, it's fantastic. But let's talk about the song itself too, the songwriting. And I haven't mentioned the songwriting yet. I think Seger is a great songwriter. I think he's an underrated songwriter. And part of it is because he's so straightforward. Right? You don't have to, like, some songs are fine when you kind of got to look for the veiled meaning in there. A lot of like Dylan stuff, right? You're going to look at Dylan stuff, you're going to read those lyrics forever going, what does he mean here? Whereas with Bob, I just know what he's talking about. And this one, I relate to what he's talking about. I mean, Kev talked about that in the beginning. Feels like a number. You know, take my card and stand in line. His card, you used to have to take a time card and punch in with the clock. I don't think you do that much now. Everything's on the computer. To make a buck, I work overtime. Dear Sir letters keep coming in the mail. Probably either advertising or bill collectors. I work my back till it's racked with pain. The boss can't even recall my name. I show up late and I'm docked. It never fails. I just feel like another spoke in a great big wheel, like a tiny blade of grass in a great big field. To workers, I'm just another drone. To Ma Bell, that's the telephone company, boys and girls, back in the day. I'm just another phone. I'm just another statistic on a sheet. To teachers, I'm just another child. To IRS, I'm another file. I'm just another consensus on the street. Gonna cruise out of the city, head down to the sea, gonna shout out at the ocean, hey, it's me. And I feel like a number, a stranger in this land. I'm not a number, damn it, I'm a man. I said I'm a man. You get that great piano and guitar solo. And then just kind of keeps going on with that. I feel like it, I feel like it, I feel like a man. Just a great song and a fantastic way to end out side one. Now we head over to side two. Ain't Got No Money. This one was written by Frankie Miller, and he got the great Don Felder from Eagles fame with the guitar solo on this one. Ain't Got No Money. Now you got Muscle Shoals rhythm section on this one, on this one, the next one, and the last song. So they basically dominate side two. So I thought this is a jam song, right? Ain't Got No Money. He talks about he's got no money, but he's looking for a girl and he just wants her for the night. He might not have any money, but you know, they can do their thing. It's fine. It's my least favorite song so far, but I mean, I love the A-side, so there's nothing wrong with it. It's just interesting. I talk about this on older stuff. You know, it's vinyl, and Kev said, you know, he bought this vinyl when he was 8 years old. It's vinyl, so what you start and end a side with are so important. So there's so many outstanding songs on side one. I'm surprised they decided to start out side two with this, but maybe they just wanted that jam session element. So nothing wrong with it. It's just it's the weakest song on a really great album so far. Now we go to a song that I definitely know. I just didn't know that Bob did the original. We've Got Tonight, 13 in the US, 41 in the UK, 9 in Canada. Further versions charted in 1983 for Kenny Rogers as a duet with Sheena Easton. That's the one I know. That was all over the radio. And again in 2002 for Ronan Keating. The song developed from an earlier Seger composition titled This Old House, which features the same chords as We've Got Tonight, although the earlier song had a slightly different melody. He overhauled This Old House into We've Got Tonight the day after seeing the film The Sting, all the way back in 1973, which features a conversation between the Robert Redford character and a woman he's attracted to who says, I don't even know you. Redford's response, you know me, it's 2 a.m, and I don't know nobody, caused an emotional response in Seger manifested in the overhauled song lyrics. It's not recorded until the 76 sessions for Seger's album, the previous one of this, Night Moves, and was held off that album as he felt it was not a thematic fit. It's one of 5 of the songs off this album recorded at Muscle Shoals with the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. Of course, Vanita Fields, Clyde King, and Shelly Matthews provided the backing vocals. Since the death of Bob's mom, Charlotte, he's made a point of always including this song in the live set as it was her favorite of all of his songs. We've Got Tonight, some great keyboards on there from Barry Beckett. The backing vocals are fantastic. It's a reduced arrangement because it's about the lyrics. You can feel the emotion in Bob's voice. He's got that kind of voice, man, where he can kind of do with it whatever he wants. So I actually enjoyed his version of it more than Kenny Rogers and Sheena Easton's, just for me. And I guess Kenny took some songs from pretty great people. They're some of his biggest hits, huh? But that's another story for another time, boys and girls. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm very familiar with the song. I just never heard Bob's version. Bob's version is an improvement on the version that I knew. Now we got 2 songs left. We got Brave Strangers. Brandy is on vocals and background vocals on this with him. And this is the only song on the second side to actually feature the Silver Bullet Band. Brave Strangers, just a showcase of top flight musicianship. The piano by Robin Robbins, I'm assuming. And you got alto on the brass, the drumming by Teagarden, the guitar by Abbott, the bass by Chris Campbell. I haven't brought up on anything yet. And then also whatever Bob was on, whatever instrument he was on there, I have no idea because it's not delved out here, the musician credits on this particular song. But just a great song, 6 minutes, 22 seconds. It takes you through tempo changes, dials it back there, right there, maybe a third of the way through, get a little bit of that brass, and then speeds it back up. So just a really, really well done song. I can see why a lot of people, if they listen to this album all the time, this song has to grow on them, right? It has to, I bet it just gets better and better. So yeah, I can just see that because it's kind of this journey. So really did like that one. Now we go to the last track, which I have no info on. We got the famous final scene, which would be the right thing to have as the last track on the album. The famous final scene, what a fantastic way to end this album. And this song did such a good job of letting the arrangement convey the emotion, right? It starts out slow, it builds as he's going through all the stuff, and I'll get into the subject of the song in a minute, and then it fades back out with the melancholy at the end as he accepts the fate that it is over. So I just thought that was really good. Vocals are fantastic. Lead guitar Pete Carr does a great job. Keyboards Barry Beckett drives this thing, and then Roger Hawkins on the drums also is a key contributor to the success of this song. It's the final scene, right? He just talks about the relationship as everything must end is what he's talking about in the first one, and then chorus like a river to a stream. It's the famous final scene. As you've probably been in, I'm guessing, a long-term relationship here, and you feel it start to disintegrate and come to an end, right? And you know it, but it's like this slow movie that's unfolding because you know the conclusion and the inevitable end, but you don't really want to deal with that. And then it finally just plays all out at the very end. He says the light fades from the screen, from the famous final scene. Yeah, this song was absolutely fantastic, which is going to segue me into the favorite tracks, which Kev is obviously the authority on this album, so we're going to let him share his favorite tracks first. He said Hollywood Nights, Still the Same, Feel Like a Number, Till It Shines, Brave Strangers, and the famous final scene. My favorites are going to look very similar to Kev's. That's going to be the entire first side. It's just the way it is. Hollywood Nights, Still the Same. Old Time Rock and Roll, which I see Kev doesn't have on there, and I don't want to put words in his mouth. He listens to a lot of FM radio. He's probably heard this song. I mean, I'm not even going to guess how many times. 5,000? I don't know. It's probably not even out of the realm of possibility. So it's probably why it's not there for him. Till It Shines, Feel Like a Number. So that entire first side. And then I'm going to go with this last song, the famous final scene. Now we're going to get to the overall score. Kev goes first. He said, ranking it still a 9.75 out of 10. Yes, to me, it's still that awesome. You could drop the needle or hit play on the first track, listen to every song, and it just does not get tiring to him. Wow, that's a sky-high score from Kev. He knows a ton about music, so definitely respect that score from him. For me, I'm not going to be quite that high, obviously. It's the first time I've listened to it, but like I said, my favorite was the entire first side, which is 5 of the 9 tracks, and then the last track was also favorite. So 6 of the 9 tracks I put in the favorite category. That's very rare that happens. So for me, it's going to be a very high 8.5 on first listen. I love this kind of music. It's rock and roll. It's straightforward. Like I said, Seger's lyricism is great, right? He's a great writer, man. It doesn't get taken into account. And he's got a fantastic voice. Just really, really enjoy this. Let me know what you think of this album down below, what your favorites are. Thanks to Kev, as always. Really appreciate you. Appreciate everybody watching. Until next time, guys, I will see you.